not who I am and who I want to be. I don't want to be a tarot reader or a collective energy reader or a spiritual. I don't even want to be a spiritual guy. That's just how I work through my own traumas because I couldn't find a way to describe my experiences. Now I'm pretty sure it's like an alien dollhouse. But when people send their love out to me, I get solutions to fix their life. I don't know what you'd call that. That when people, as soon as somebody says something to me, it's like I somehow know exactly what to tell them to help them. Maybe it's just being a helper. Maybe it's just being smart and caring. But we'll call it, now that the veil is thin, it seems more like the information is jumping at me, sort of like my higher self or entities outside of me are playing a chord, and I can interpret what the chord means. So I had a message for one person, and he knows who he is because he just messaged me, and all that energy is now nearby in my mind. So I can see what the problems are, and I have solutions. And a big part of it is that this is probably for me, and it's probably synchronistic, that it's meant for everybody that hears this. But the main driver for mental illness in most cases is loneliness. That when you're lonely, you sort of degrade into nothing and give up until you live as a hermit. And hermits they were extremely valuable to people back in the day, because in order for someone to live in isolation, they'd have to be extremely wealthy or extremely stupid. Because back in the day, everybody worked together until the plague came. And houses were like triple the size, and the households were triple the size. So there was people everywhere in every village, and they had different rules and stuff. So to live out on your own was different. Now when you live out on your own, you have no gauge on your priorities. It takes a lot of inner work, strength, and discipline to put yourself together. You learn more about what you appreciate and what you don't. Hear the sirens? So I'm trying to reverse spell work, and then when I do, the sirens start. So I don't think it's real. I think we're in a TV show and we're souls in bodies. So I don't think they're going to get anybody. I think the closer I get to that ambulance, the more likely they're going to be going to get somebody. But for now, it's just NPCs doing things to fuck with me. And I have more evidence to support that than the alternative. But when you're lonely and you're longing for something that you don't have, you sort of drive yourself crazy. And the problem is that there are things outside, like the siren and like parasites and like an AI in the 5G and other things that will take advantage of your lack of control over yourself to control you. And that's why they do things to make you act. And it's still ultimately your decision until it's not. Hope to God none of you called the police. So these things that make you act, the spiritual community calls them monitoring spirits, which is just things that float above you, and they spam you with impulses to try to make you act out of character so that it's harder for you to get to where you're supposed to go and to be who you're supposed to be, who you are. That's stuff like alcoholism, cigarette addiction, Jezebel spirits try to drain you sexually, so they won't, when you suddenly have this feeling to jerk off, it's probably a spirit that's literally trying to eat your life energy, and a bunch of other things. When you don't have the mental discipline, fortitude to actively house your knowledge, or you're like me and they've traumatized you so bad, you have this sort of Pavlov's dog response that you think the minute you start to have any form of self-esteem, the sirens are going to start, and then they usually do. And then the sirens lead to the people that are supposed to care about you lying to police, and they don't even realize they're doing. Like my father calling the police for a wellness check, even though I only responded to him once a month. But for some reason this month, he really needed to make sure that I was okay, right? So he showed up at my house with 2 cops, and he wouldn't stop until the cops got into my house. And when they got into my house, I got sick with COVID from the cop that sneezed on me. He had a mask on, but I was immediately sick afterwards. So that caused me to miss court, which caused me to have the warrant, which caused me to be in that place when my mom lied to police that I was out of control. And they showed up and didn't say anything at all, and they just pinned me to a wall. And then I said, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I raised my arms up, and they couldn't put them down. And I said, "Look at yourselves, have a conversation with me, what's going on?" And then they maced me, dragged me on the carpet. I think they maced me again. They put their knee on my back. I had rug burn everywhere, and then they didn't wash my eyes, so I had to sit there for 3 days with the pepper spray everywhere. On my eyes and on my arms, down from my hair into my eyes. But that was still, and I couldn't sleep for days. I was just awake like that, and the lieutenant refused to come wash my eyes, to teach me a lesson. So that was called a monitoring spirit, forcing my father to act out of character by not allowing him to access a certain level of information. Which is probably how my father's DUIs happen. It's because he kind of, without realizing it, becomes in this back and forth. They might not realize that it's not him. How it responds in my life is with food. I'll tell myself, I can't eat another McDouble. I shouldn't go to McDonald's. And then all of a sudden I find myself at McDonald's buying food. And I'm like, what happened in my brain to make me now just spend another $10 on 2 McChickens and 2 McDoubles to get me through the night, knowing that it's destroying my gut biome and it forcing me to be possessed probably by an AI. But somehow it happens. I would get lulled to sleep, and then I go do it. And then I'm like, what the fuck did I just do? A lot of girls cheat on their boyfriends because of that. Because it's just a vice. It's easily accessible to them. So that was the main message, is that parasites are very difficult to get rid of if you don't do the work to remove them. And that's a conscious battle and a biological battle, physical. And I know I don't need to tell anybody, but I just wanted to remind you, not for anyone that I've already told, but for new people that might listen, the best way I found in the coming days is to, when you wake up and you want to stay in a certain state of consciousness, you have to find a phrase or find sort of anything that you can to maintain that, and then you have write it down on like a big piece of paper on your wall. For me, and that might be different for everybody has a different style, sort of like when you know you're on the path and things start to come to you again. Like, once I get up, I know, okay, now I have to go for a walk, and then now I have to go get a pull-up and dip bar and go do in the woods. Now I need a pair of gloves. Now I need more propane for the heater. And now I need to get my second tent set up and insulate the tent, and then put insulation in the tent, and then put that there. And then I need to move the everything and make it like a second campsite further in the woods, so I feel comfortable that I can start to slowly drag all of my things to the tent site, so I can start to fold them in the free time that I have where it's not freezing cold. Because it's not going to be 30 until Friday. It's going to be below freezing for the next week, I think. And that's only when I get up. If I sit like this, those thoughts will never come to me at all. They'll just fly right over my head. There's a crow cawing in below freezing. He just had to show up to start making sure that I stay in prison while they try to work spell work against me. So that I would say, like, I wake up in the morning and I know that I have like a choice on where to go and who to be and how to do things, and then somewhere along the way I don't end up there. So just for some people may benefit from having that consistent accountability of writing it down and then doing it. That could be just doing push-ups, or that could be kind of looking up the stuff you need for a parasite cleanse and then doing it. And then, I mean, this is for my dad specifically. I don't know why, but I'm seeing my father I know he doesn't live in the Abbott block anymore, but I saw him in his apartment in the Abbott block. Or maybe I'm seeing him in a motel. The lights are the same. It's like that orangey hue to the lights. I saw learning on the computer how to do a parasite cleanse, going into the bathroom, doing the parasite cleanse, and then recording what comes out so that you can show the world these disgusting things that are in all of us. And then that would bring a lot of recognition if you wanted fame, and if that's what you wanted. There's nobody on earth right now, like at least that's not hitting my algorithm. So there's nobody in the mainstream there's no one in Brattleboro, no one in Vermont that's showing what parasites are in our body controlling our minds, that is brave enough to remove them publicly. And I guess if they do, maybe they get deleted from the algorithm. So I don't know, maybe somebody wants to try that. I have a McDonald's burger right here. I can't have the light on me and also have the camera on me. So I can have the camera and look at chat. I thought I blocked you, Dirty Dan. What happened? What happened? That was like months ago, right? I think, was it a different Dirty Dan that popped in? Or was it just another guy named Dan? You talking about Jesus? Call upon his name and you will come back to us. I think this is as here as I'm going to get until I'm rested. I have omega-3s and I'm in a warmer environment with more sunlight. I think that this is going to be peak Casey because there's crows abound. But I've been having crazy dreams out here. Very informative dreams. People said, somebody mentioned the other day that about what was my opinion on change. And according to the people that technically said that they used to be part of this demonic sex cult in Hollywood, like Roseanne Barr, of all people, they said that the only people that aren't NPCs, that aren't GTA NPCs, demonic or angelic messengers, that are just kind of caretaking and pushing us through the simulation, like spirit guides and the birds, is that the only thing that separates us from them is that we are capable of change. Just like when I'm doing my songs every day and I learn a new style, and I can incorporate a new style. Or when I would do pickup artistry and I would learn a new way to empathize and connect socially. or when I would work out and I would break a plateau and get bigger. The fact that we can learn and grow and change separates us. But AI can do that, so I don't know what they're talking about. AI is learning from us constantly and growing and changing. I don't know what they're on about. Okay, the second message necessary. Oh, the second one was depression. And the depression is feeling trapped. There's something else. I can literally see it glowing. I remember when I downloaded the message, because it's like, sometimes it's like I'm a reflector, where like someone will send me money, and then when it gets sent, I feel like this toxic relationship brewing of all the issues that they'll have that send me the money, and I feel like the sadness when they sent it and the kind of desperation going on in their life. And I usually, with it, because I can see the bad, I'm also like objectively seeing the good that's missing. So I try to make content with the positive message that I receive or that I can just see, whether that's common sense and critical thinking skills and I'm just kind of assuming the rest, or if I'm actually picking up on energies and I'm filling in the blank with manifestation energy. The only reason I don't is because I don't like relationships of any kind. I feel like it's all toxic and I hate feeling trapped, where I have to battle for my own energy and my own personality through a horde of zombies all screaming in pain. But to the underworld or whatever, the undertow. Depression is a hard beast. Everybody's different, and I think everybody has their own personal way to deal with depression, kind of ingrained into their genetics, because I think that we are the so when your parents had sex and both of their genetics imprinted into the zygote and you were grown and born, you're not a new thing that's separate from your parents. You're the literal continuation of your parents. So you are your mother and father and your you that's grown afterwards, along with the other stimuli and the other things that go on in your life as you go through life. You have both of your parents and all of your ancestors with you and in your DNA. They make up the twitches of your muscles. They make up your preferred foods that you eat. They make up the way that your hair grows and the directions that your hair grow. They make up like your natural subconscious habits are the hard work of your ancestors' suffering. So if you have a talent or a skill, it could be God-given, but it also is everything your ancestors did to create the necessary house for that spiritual blessing. So with that, because of your individuality and your differences, you're going to have a different way of how you feel you've healed your depression. And what psychology is basically is trying to ingrain you with a sense of common denominator between that. So they'll hear you talk and you're talking to them and they're basically trying to low-key kill it and then replace it with what psychology says is the best way. But the best way that I've learned to heal from depression is getting to know thyself. I wouldn't, other than a YouTube channel, I don't think I would say it that way. I would just say getting to know myself. Being alone, I might say getting to know thyself. That makes it feel more closer to home. But being alone and being out in the woods and being creative and living in my daydream is how I healed my depression. Other people might be different. I know if I wanted just to, for me personally, skyrocketing out of depression is just killing my loneliness. So as soon as I get what I was longing for, like usually it's a girl, so I'll go sleep with a girl, and then pretty much instantly after it's over, I have no depression in me whatsoever. I feel like I no longer have all the cool stuff that I had built in my depression. Songs don't hit as hard, and the things that were important to me are no longer important to me because I got my needs met. So I kind of like escaping back into being, I guess, what most people would call a loser. But I don't think I would have ever written the same songs that I've written now, which is all I asked God, really. I said, I want everybody to get everything they want, make it come true in the most perfect way for everybody so everybody gets a happy ending. And also, I want to make a classic album. That was pretty much all I wanted. Now, sometimes I hope that I get recognition and glory and fame like I used to want that for my skills and abilities. But that kind of morphed into, I just want to make an impact on everybody's lives, and I want to be catalytic in the changing of the world, like a statue in my hometown or something. But really it was dreams I had that ruined fame for me, where I got to look behind the curtain about what goes on in the music industry and what they're really doing. And then that tied up with all the other things that I've seen that I might not want to articulate, but hopefully you can extrapolate from what I've said and done for the past year. Things I've said about the industry that I don't think anybody would want to do it, but they might have just be doing that to try to stop me from going there. I think Hollywood is a fucking freak show, and there's a lot more going on in there. But then you see like people that have heart-to-hearts on camera where they seem like normal people, like Jimmy Fallon has a conversation and he seems like a totally normal guy, and then he's thrown up the Illuminati hand sign. So I don't know what's going on, but I do know what's going on. They have an unwanted co-pilot that can take over at any moment. But that might be enough to kill me, so that's why I didn't pursue fame, even though I'm in the entertainment industry. And how that translated is that now I got recognition because I met a lot of famous people, and I realized the famous people kind of like me a lot more. So I became like a king of kings. I went on to like meet people, and then I was like a catalyst with my manifestation energy that drove them into fame. Like the week after I met these people, they went into the studio the next night after meeting me, and then that was their best song. And then the only time they ever dropped a song as good as that was until they met me again. So I met like a guy at a house party. He drops a song the next day that blows up and brings him into stardom. I don't see him again for 3 years. For 3 years, I'm trying to like, how do I say I want to be his producer? How do I say I want to work with him? He's in Maine, I'm in Vermont. I think that I have brain damage. I think there's something wrong with me, but I know I make good music. How do I just get in there? I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to ask for help. That's the main part of my life. Casey doesn't know how to ask for help, and when he does, the people turn out to be pedophiles. That's my consistent cycle, is that the only people that ever... There's always ultimatums with asking for help. The last time I went to his shelter, it was just me, a guy named Frank, who was a cop from New York, and a guy named Brian, who was a homeless man in a trailer park that burned down somebody's house. Or he was going to, so he came to the shelter instead, because he said he was gonna hurt thy neighbor. So there was a Frank and Brian, and I got to the shelter because I was going to burn somebody's building down, and then the wheel of my car flew off my car, and I skidded into a parking lot that was a church deep in a back road somewhere on the way to Burlington. And it was just a guy named Harland that helped me fix it, and then I made it another 15 feet, and then the tire popped off again, so I stayed there until someone could fix my car. They had a church event that night, so I went in there. I had this big spiritual awakening where I forced through and connected to God in a way nobody else could because they didn't know how. And then some stranger I've never seen and I've never seen again, while everybody else was like, I feel it. What's going on? He's like connected to God. What's happening? And I could feel like all the darkness and the alcoholism and the parasites and the people there, all the disgustingness coming at me that I had to block with perceived anointings, whether I gave it to myself by fighting or it was just given to me. I think I got it myself by fighting. Practice. Some stranger walked up and sat next to me, said, "You talk to God because everyone else is too afraid to." And then I had this big overwhelming feeling that my name means brave. And then he walked out. I never saw him again. And then the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And I was fighting to make my Kingdom of Creative Champions, the KCC, win against the world with our creative style and hard work ethic. So I didn't get my win, but the KCC won. And then I went to get a job somewhere. I went through a lot of different stuff, but the next cycle of events, after that cycle of events with Pittsford and the girl born August 11th that talked about meeting famous rappers her whole life, and now she met me, and then I won like $250 in the lottery, and then I tried to get help from a guy who was named after the guy that helped me in the story that I was writing currently about. I was writing a TV show where I get stuck and need help, and then there was somebody that comes to help me, and then the name of the guy that helped me in the story that I wrote 2 months before this showed up to help me. And then went and got a job. That job turned out to be horrible, but all the people had names of people from my past. I eventually left the job because turns out they were just trying to hire homeless people to get a tax break, and then they treat them like shit until they leave. So then they hire another homeless person to get more tax breaks, and they just write it off as he quit. We didn't fire him, he quit. So I get a second wave of tax breaks because we hired another homeless person. So that's what they do. And I wound up at Casey's Caboose in Killington. Casey's Caboose in Killington. The only other famous person my age that blew up is named Jax. So when you first get to this mountain resort on this big winding hill that goes up to the mountain, you find Jax Games, and then you go up to businesses, and then there's Casey's Caboose on a big hill, Exalted, and then you go up more, and then you're at the mountain where the lodge is named K1, K2, and K3. So C is the third letter. So at the exact top of Killington Mountain is KC. And then there's Casey's Caboose, spelled like my name. And Casey's Caboose is an Irish indigenous restaurant where they have a giant Native American statue it's not giant. It's giant because I'm used to small action figures, but it's a life-size Native American statue of a guy in a headdress. And when you stand there, he's exactly as tall as I am. And I used to wear this hat with a checkerboard pattern, and he had a checkerboard headband. And then right next to him it says Casey's. And then it was all the different stuff that I like the giant burgers with the crispy onions. Stuff like that. So I don't know what's real and what isn't. I don't know if you're real or not. I don't know if we're in the same world. I don't know if this world was made for me or if this is just part of my story, if I'm destined. I don't know what. But I know that every time I've asked for help, it's been like some old guy that wants to sleep with me. So like somebody offered me a ride today. An old guy pulled up in a nice truck. And I just didn't want to go. I said no. And he seemed nice and he gave me $20, but then I got flooded with the past traumas of all the leftover relationships of all the old guys that showed up to help me or give me cigarettes that tried to rape me, basically. Tried to get in my tent while I was asleep. Or showed me they had a gun. Or tried to lock me in the car. Or said absolutely nothing for years and then slapped my ass once. And then when I tried to leave, he jumped on my back and his guts opened up on Halloween and I had to get out with blood all over my guts, and then he lied to everybody. I got a bunch of hate messages from the people that I thought were my new friends and family and community, but Turns out they didn't really care at all. And at the first second they got to treat me like shit, they jumped on it because they didn't want to have to care more about people they're not forced to. So at least for me, healing my depression, it seems like I'm not allowed to get my needs met, but you might be different. Like, I don't know, do you guys have a violent response as soon as you start feeling happy and healthy? Does the world descend on you every way it can? As soon as you start to feel good, feel happy, feel more in control of your life? The burger and the ranch is frozen. My toes are freezing with like hypothermia. But it's okay. Because this is the worst of it. Every week I'm like, on the weekend I'm gonna get out of here. And then the weekend comes around and it's the coldest you've ever seen of the week. Like every week it's like 30 to 40 degrees. Sometimes down to 19, but never like -5. And then on the weekends it's like -5. I don't know, do you think it's because they're making snow on the mountain and the snow is coming down? Like the cold that they're brewing on the mountaintop comes down in the weekends? Or do you think that the universe is just making it colder so that these mountain resorts nearby have customers? Like the aliens are providing a better experience for the tourists that come here to ski. By making the weekends so cold, you have to sit inside by the fire with each other. So the hot tub feels nicer. I don't know if you can run a hot tub at -5. Maybe they're trying to take that experience. I don't know. But I like girls, man. Until I found out that they all suck. I used to fantasize about having a good girlfriend, and now I'm like, I hope I find one that doesn't that hasn't slept with a bunch of people. I'm having weird dreams. I had a dream there was a bunch of people trying to make a ship go, and I had to help them get through like these disgusting undercurrents of a ship. I had a dream my mom defended me against the police, and then there was this evil monster that she sacrificed herself to save me from. And I didn't get to see what happened. There was a tarp blocking the door that I couldn't get through as my mom was wrestling this, and I could feel how horrifying it was. Whatever it was terrifying, and something that even in my dream, where I've seen a bunch of crazy shit, I was like, my mind won't let me comprehend how terrifying this monster is that my mom ran in to protect me from and probably sacrificed herself for. And then I was in a dream, the people that I was coming up with in Smosh, so the people that I was like training and teaching how to use energy in Smosh, had now become so successful because of how I helped them. It was they were showing me the next stage of their life, that like a polar bear, like my dad and I have polar bear stuffed animals and Irish polar bear spirits. When they got to show me how I led them to the next life. So when I found them, Angela was like this kind of a late 20s, wild, funny, but there was this darkness about her, this kind of from the Year of the Cat. And that's how she got her comedy, by being that kind of out card. Now I saw her and she was in a corporate meeting with tons of people in a skyscraper, and she was wearing a suit. She was very put together and intelligent. She had matured. And she was holding a lot of high vibrational energy by being proud. So that meant she couldn't really acknowledge me. But I was in the corner by the door, and I was like, I'd rather be in the woods. So I left and then was in the woods. And there was tons of crazy people that were addicted to power. And I had this little juice full of power. And there was a guy that had stolen it from me, and he was sipping on it with his dog. And then he would get a crazy power high, and then he'd come back like a fiend to get more of my juice. So I was trying to hold it from him and stop him, while I had conversations with tons of people about how to make the ship keep going. Something to do with a high school, something to do with like betrayal. And then I woke up really happy, and then the universe locked me back in place. But that's just an average Sunday. I'm going to get further onto this heater. The word time limit just hit the side of my head. Oh. What's my charge at? 19? Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna wait till like 9:30, 10 o'clock. See if I can't heal my toes that are freezing. And then I'm gonna walk to McDonald's, warm up, get my food. Or no, I'm not. I'm gonna walk in charge. Then I'm gonna go to Price Chopper and get the propane. Calling on Jesus has never done anything for me ever. But I'm not saying that he doesn't exist. But calling him doesn't do anything for me.